Welcome. It's the Smart Connected group. It's Thursday evening. It's also the Smart Connected podcast. And I just wanted to welcome my wonderful guest tonight, Oliver Oguz. Welcome, Oliver.
Hi Jane, how you doing? Thanks for
Y-
having me. Real privilege to be on your podcast. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great to have you here, Oliver. So, Oliver is Lord Alan Sugar's most recent protege and business partner. And because my podcast listeners are from all over the world, with 50% in the US, you may not have heard of Lord Alan Sugar. So, just to explain, he's a British business magnate, media personality, billionaire, author, politician, and political advisor. And he's also known for being the host and the boss for the BBC series The Apprentice, which is a reality and entrepreneurship competition series. And he also took up that role for the Celebrity Apprentice Australia in 2021. So anyway, that's Alan Sugar. That's not Oliver. So Oliver, as I said, he's his recent protege, and we will be talking about that. But Oliver himself took over Trademark Wizards, and in his first year of taking it over, the business became the UK's number one trademark filer, according to official statistics. So he's an expert in intellectual property and trademarks, and we're going to talk tonight about how important it is and what you can do to protect your idea and your IP and your brand and all of those things that you've worked so hard to create. So before founding Trademark Wizards, Oliver, which it won't come as any surprise, but he worked as a trademark lawyer and he was a senior consultant at an established IP consultancy firm. So dealing with trademark related issues above the board. And he believes that a company's brand and reputation is the most important asset that it has and it's worth protecting. So he's really passionate about this topic. So we're going to get into his relationship with Lord Alan Sugar and also why trademarking and intellectual property protection is such an important thing for any business owner today. So, yeah, let's get into it, Oliver.
Where do you want me to start then?
Well, so you've really worked hard to develop this expertise, haven't you, in
Yeah.
IP and trademarking and so on. I mean, what made you so passionate about this? Because if somebody looked at your CV or your LinkedIn profile, they'd be like, this guy has worked really hard to become the number one business in the UK for this particular field. So, what is it that kind of grabbed your imagination and your attention, and you thought, you know what, this is just something that I am going to specialize in and get really good at?
Well, I think I was kind of studying law basically, just really to keep my mum happy at the end of the day, and I managed to get a job somewhere as an intern, just reading files at an IP practice, basically. So it was probably the only company that would have me. So I sat there reading some files and I got quite interested in it. So I did a master's degree in intellectual property, managed to get a job at this firm, and I just started doing loads of postgraduate intellectual property trademark courses, and then ended up qualifying as a trademark attorney. And I think it was just I didn't realize how important trademarks are to a business until I started working there, and I realized that a lot of business owners weren't kind of aware of how important trademarks are. So, um, and there's always a different thing to do every day. It's not a boring job where things are repetitive. There's new things going on every day. The law's updating all the time. So yeah, it just keeps you on your toes. And I'm happy. I think this is where I was meant to be, basically.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have that feeling, don't you? And as I said, you've studied this really hard. I think you're being very modest about your achievements because when I actually read through the thread of your educational achievements and how you've gone on to get this qualification, that qualification, another
Yeah.
qualification. You really have worked hard at becoming, foremost expert in this field. And I think that's always really impressive, because a lot of people don't stick at things. They'll dabble, they'll have a little dabble, they'll try something. But you clearly thought, right, this is the thing that I am going to do, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the best. And you are the best, because your company, Trademark Wizards, is the number one in the UK. So that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Well, it was number one, and and I have to say that there are lots of amazing trademark lawyers out there, that I do aspire to be like too. We're a lot. Most of them are my friends as well. It's such a small kind of niche area of law that just everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just try and be the best, or do my best in whatever it is. And I think learning is an important part of it, basically. So if there's something on the news or an article or a book that comes out, then I'll read it.
Yeah. So let's get into this whole thing with Lord Alan Sugar.
Yeah.
So, how did you get to meet him?
So Lord Sugar, in my old law firm that I used to work at, Lord Sugar, he used to be a client there, and they used to manage his his portfolio of companies, trademarks and intellectual property. And I was sort of fortunate enough to be in charge of the portfolio management. And I never I'd never actually spoke to him for a few years, because I don't think he well, he never used to instruct me directly. I think he used to instruct one of his right hand men in the firm, or one of his CFOs in the firm, and then they used to instruct me. And that's how I used to get instructions from his companies. And then one day, one of the because all the apprentices, or most of them, they end up being my clients at some point, if they win. And there was one time where I had been asked to clear a trademark for one of them, and I did, and I told him that it was okay to use it, and so he started using it. And then um, he's called me up and he said, "Are you sure it was all right to use that trademark? Because I'm getting sued now for damages, profits. They're asking me to change my name. Um, they want me to pay legal fees, X, Y, and Z." And he just said to me, "I really don't want to show Lord Sugar this letter." And I said, "Look, it's okay. I stand by my advice, etc." And then a couple of minutes later, he called me back and he said, "Lord Sugar wants to talk to you tomorrow at 9 o'clock about all of this." And I just remember being really scared. So
Yeah.
I'd um, I'd called up I'd called up a barrister. A senior barrister had got a junior barrister in the team to help with the advice. And because all of my team knew that all of my trainees knew that there was or our paralegals knew that there was a conversation with Lord Sugar that was about to happen. They all wanted to be in the room when it happened. And so I think on that call, there was myself, about four of my team members, then there was the apprentice, then there was two barristers, and then Lord Sugar joined. So there was 9 people on this call.
Wow.
And when he joined the call, I said to one of the barristers, "Go on, take it away. Can you explain what's going on to Lord Sugar?" And he basically just said, "There's no one I want to talk to. I don't want to talk to any barristers. I want to talk to you, Oliver, and I want you to tell me why we've asked you to clear a trademark for us, and now we're getting sued." And I was like, oh my God. And then I just basically said to him that I think it's okay, we're going to win this case. And he just said to me, well, you better get on and win it then. And then that was the end of that conversation. So, but then after that, I think he slowly started taking a shine to me. I hope. And then when I moved firms, he, he stayed as one of my clients, and that year we became number one. And I just got in touch with him and said, thanks very much for coming along and keeping your business with me. And we've become number one. You've encouraged me, you've motivated me. And that he just said, we sort of said, should we try and join forces here? Because I think you'd enjoy a trademark company in your portfolio. And we discussed it, and we just, he decided that it was probably worth the investment. And for me, I'm happy because I've got a good mentor, and a good member of the team, well-respected businessman. So it all works out for everyone.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I mean, you did tell me the kind of insider version of this story, didn't you, when we spoke, Oliver? And it was to do with New Year's Eve, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. I can.
I
So
think you have to tell
basically,
everybody.
so basically, so basically, I was when I moved firms, I was kind of living in my office because there wasn't many of us, and there was a lot of work to do. And so all I was doing was filing trademark applications all day and all night. And we had some software where we could monitor how many trademarks were filed. And I could see as we were going to New Year that we were actually kind of on par with filing the more trademarks than other firms. So I sat there with my business partner, and we literally spent New Year's Eve just getting drunk and filing applications,
What a
basically.
great way to spend New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it was awful. I've got a better quality of life now. And then when it hit New Year, we checked what the statistics were, and yeah, we'd won. We'd become number one, so we knew already. And then so I sort of said to Keish, oh, I'm gonna email Lord Sugar, and
Bold move.
say
New Year's
thank
Eve.
you to him, at New Year's. And Keish sort of said to me, "Don't. He's just gonna think you're weird and sad." And I said, "No, I'm gonna do it." So I emailed him actually just to say what I've just said to you. I said, thank you, X, Y, and Z, and he emailed me back straight away. So and then he just said he was going to send someone down to see me, the following week when everyone had recovered, and he sent someone down to our office, and they said, Lord Sugar's interested in getting, uh, becoming part of the business, basically. So we started talking like that. So yes, it all sort of starts from a few beers, doesn't it? uh, and some ends up like this.
Well, I mean, there's one thing about him is that he is purposeful, isn't he? So I would imagine that when you emailed him on New Year's Eve at midnight and said, "Hey, we're number one, and thanks for helping us get there,"
Mm.
I can't somehow imagine him kind of falling over drunk and saying, "Ah, he can wait till Monday." He's not really that type, is he?
Well, he just sort of said to me, I think it was a one-liner. I think he just said, well done. He's not into his long emails,
No.
basically. But just to have that well done was enough for me.
Yeah.
And then he his one of his right hand guys sent a message as well, because I copied them in. I said thank you to both of them, because they'd also, I'd learned a lot from them as well,
Yeah.
having Lord Sugar as a client. Even though you're advising him, you learn about business because you can see some of the decisions that he makes based on the advice that we give him, and how he, how he takes risks, how he manages risks, how he negotiates. So it's all good fun. I learned a lot from him just by having him as a client.
Yeah, so what would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned, Oliver?
Um, I think probably not. Don't let anyone bully you in
Mhm,
business.
mhm.
Basically, that's one of the things that I've learned from him, which is sometimes a difficult sort of lesson, and sometimes it's difficult to get my head around. But um, he's very principled, and he's very ethical when it comes to business.
Yeah.
And there's a right way of doing things, and there's a wrong way of doing things.
Mhm.
And I think he's very respectful to people that negotiate in good faith.
Yep.
But if somebody pulls out a card that they shouldn't pull out in a negotiation, then it becomes a matter of principle after that. When you're as you know, and sometimes it's not about money anymore. It's about principle, and it's about showing someone that you're not going to get bullied. And that's one of the things that I've learned from him.
Yeah. And that's a really, really
Yeah,
powerful lesson because to be honest, I've known about him for decades, really, because
mm,
he's been around for a long time, hasn't he? I mean,
yeah,
he's done all sorts of things in his career, and he's a very, very, very successful and respected businessman. But it's quite obvious he's just one of those people that he won't be pushed around. You wouldn't push him around, would you?
no, no. Some people, but I've seen people try to, and these are very, very big companies
Yeah.
that have tried to bully him or his companies, and he's just willing to go all the way, and
Uh-huh.
it's amazing to see that. And
Yeah.
it's about um, who blinks first. It's an interesting it's an interesting thing to observe. But I've learnt my own lessons from the way he's made decisions.
Yeah, and he's very principled in his personal
Mm,
life as well, and that's something that he's very well known for. He's got this very, very long-standing marriage. He's just one of these kind of really
yeah,
steady, stable kind of guys.
yeah.
So, in that way, he really stands out as well. So, yeah, he's got my vote. So tell me, and before we get on to talking more about trademarks, because it is a
Mm,
very important topic, let's just talk about the apprentices, because as you said, all the
mm.
apprentice winners, they would all come to you because obviously you were part.
Most of them,
Yeah, most of
most
them.
of them.
Yeah,
They've all obviously I'm just a service provider,
yeah,
and there are plenty of other good trademark lawyers around, and guess it's another thing that I admire about Lord Sugar. He's not a control freak. He lets people run their businesses how they want to run them, and they can choose who they want to choose to be their service providers. So yeah, I mean, quite a few of them are my clients, and some of them are not, but we're all friends at the end of the day.
yeah. So what does it actually take to be an apprentice winner? Is there some kind of common characteristic that you
Uh,
would say um, they're all a bit like that?
I think that the I could probably say that when I speak to them after they've won the apprentice, and I kind of get to know them because I'll be working on trademarks with them and stuff like that. I guess it's nice for me to see them develop. They're
Yeah.
already really, really smart people, despite what you see on TV and what they show for the comedy. for the purposes of making it sort of TV and funny. These are really bright, switched on individuals that have that killer instinct in business.
Mhm.
And it's nice to see how they grow over time
Yes.
as well, with the mentoring and their decision making and stuff like that. So it's nice, and we all learn from each other. The ones that are in London, sometimes we go out for drinks and stuff, and beers, and bounce ideas off each other. It's really interesting to have. We have really interesting business conversations as well as as well as having a laugh as well, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's nice to mix the two, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. So let's get on to talking about this really important topic of intellectual property and trademarks. So,
yeah.
if you have a business, why is it important to protect your IP, and what is IP, perhaps for people that don't not quite sure? I
I
guess
guess.
we should start there.
Okay, so there's a difference between um, real property and intellectual property. So the best way to, um, I guess, talk about it is that um, my phone, which is probably worth a fiver. Okay, so I've got this phone here, and this phone is my property. I guess it is tangible property. If I wanted to sell it, to my mum for a fiver, or my dad for a tenner, then I could do that basically. But inside this phone, there is intellectual property, which is all of the kind of property that's created from the brain, basically. And there are different types of intellectual property as well. So there's copyright, for example. So there'll be copyright in the coding of um, the phone. Copyright covers literary, artistic, musical, dramatic works, amongst some other stuff.
Yeah,
There'll be design rights, which protect the appearance of the product.
yeah.
There'll be or the article. There'll be patents somewhere in here. Somewhere in here, there's an invention that someone's and something novel with an inventive step that someone's patented. Um, it's called Samsung, or the domain name is Samsung.com. That's kind of intellectual property as well. Anything that's not protected by all of that can be protected by confidential information if it
Mhm.
doesn't fall within sort of registrable or protectable subject matter. And then you've got what I do, which is the trademark. So you've got Samsung, which is the brand, and the trademark is really any sign that is used in business to kind of differentiate your business or from someone else's business.
Yep.
And that's what it is. And so
Yeah.
that's what a trademark is.
Yeah.
um, and then why it's important is that I think, as you said, I think that a trademark is one of the company's most valuable assets,
Mhm.
apart from yourself or the CEO and the people that works for the organization.
Yeah.
The brand is something that um, the asset, one of the main assets that that builds the value of the business
Yeah.
is the intangible property, and the trademark is one of them, or the trademarks are one of them. And if you own the trademark, you can stop people using identical or similar marks for related or identical goods and services. You can stop confusion. You can stop people free riding on your reputation. You can
Mhm.
stop people tarnishing your brand.
Yeah.
Um, and on the flip side, if you own the trademark, you can use it as a defense if someone tries to sue you for trademark
Oh,
infringement.
yeah.
Um, and one of the things with owning the trademark is that um, it's when you challenge someone for using a similar name or a name that conflicts without your permission, then you've got certain remedies available to you. So one of them would be that you can get them to stop using their name, the infringing name completely. That's called an injunction. You can get them to deliver up anything with the trademark on to your office, or you can have it destroyed, whatever one you want. You can get up to £500,000 in damages or an account of profits.
It's all right, isn't it?
It is all right. A lot of people would get out of bed for that. I'd be
Yeah.
one of them. And you can get your legal fees back from the other side as well, or a massive chunk of them. So that's the benefits of having the trademark. You can also use it as collateral if you were, to get a mortgage or something like that. You could use it as security, because it's property, it's an asset. So if it's worth some money, you can use it and get a loan and get a house with it. And one of the things as well, a bit morbid, but it's property that can be passed down. Obviously, if the inevitable happens, which it will, to
Sooner rather than later.
one of us at any
Yes.
time, you can always pass down your trademark in your will to whoever you think deserves it, basically. So yeah, it's a very important asset for the business.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real eye-opener, and that's fascinating because I've always known that, of course, that brands have value because I come from a brand and marketing background where big advertising agencies, and also corporate identity and brand businesses, where actually brands were valued. So I remember one of our competitors actually had a brand valuation division. And one of the things that they did every single year was they would create a brand valuation table of some of the top brands in the world and actually put a tangible financial value on them. And they ran into hundreds of millions of pounds if you're a Coca-Cola, because that is what the brand is actually worth. And they have a methodology for calculating that. But as you said, if somebody popped up and said, oh yeah, I'm going to launch like Coca-Cola, a youth version of Coca-Cola with a slight difference in the logo. Well, they just couldn't do it, could they? Because that would be what would be at stake.
Probably one of the worst decisions they could make in business. It's just giving me shivers thinking about it, basically. But yeah, I'm sure they would get a knock on the door from Coca-Cola or one of their representatives telling them, to stop being naughty. Otherwise, they're going to get the book thrown at them.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I'm kind of interested in, and when you were talking, I was thinking, if you go to the Far East, for example, I remember I went to Thailand many years ago, and of course, you go to like the markets in Bangkok or anything, and you can buy all these rip-offs, can't you? So you can buy all these kind of designer brands for like 10 quid, and they look exactly the same, the Rolex watches and all the design, the Gucci scarves, and they've got everything. And you'll see that quite a lot, won't you, in Asia in particular? How do they get away with it?
I think that it all boils down to the authorities and how serious they take enforcement of intellectual property rights. I mean,
maybe in those countries,
I know in Turkey, I say this because my dad's Turkish, and
Turkey's another one,
so when I used to go to Turkey as a kid, it used to be the same. I'd walk down the street and I'd see Rolex watches for 5 quid, and I'd be like, how is that even possible? So I'd buy 50 of them and take them home
you
in
do,
a
don't you?
suitcase with me and just sell
Sell
them
them
to
for
my
10
mates,
quid to your
basically.
friends.
But yeah, no. But then as time goes on, I used to see that there was less and less of them, and I think that yeah, I think that companies were investing more money in enforcement, and the authorities were actually enforcing. I know in Turkey, we have a Turkish IP lawyer that works for us actually at Trademark Wizards, and she
Yeah,
used to be part of a team in her old firm in Turkey that used to go out and conduct raids for counterfeiting and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I mean, brand owners actually own trademarks in these countries as well, but I
yeah,
think if you if you shut down one market stall, there's going to be another one that pops up. So I think you need to go after the people at the top. Um, there are some there are some firms actually, some really good firms that actually have departments that deal with investigations into counterfeiting and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
So yeah, it will. I get it. It's weird, but you know, you can go. But also as well now, the fakes are getting really good. Um,
mm,
I've seen two fakes, well, one fake being next to the real thing, and it was a designer handbag. And
mm-hmm.
really, even the hologram on the tag was, um, you know, it looked authentic basically, and even the stitching as well. I think there are now the big brands are even, you know, I think they now they teach you how to spot counterfeits and stuff like that, so they'll give sessions to their representatives on what to look for. I You know, we used to have that where um some of our clients used to, or do, lodge their trademarks at customs at the border. So if
Uh-huh.
something comes over that looks a bit dodgy, the UK border agency will contact us and say, look, you know, we found a container of, you know, these things, um, and they'll take a photo of them, and we would have to sort of try and see from the photo whether it's a real or a fake, and send it to our client, and they would then tell us whether it's okay or not. Basically, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting stuff.
Yeah, I suppose in countries perhaps where there's more corruption, there's going to be it's going to be a bit laxer, isn't it? Whereas obviously here in the UK, in the
Mm,
US, and in most of Western Europe, it's not going to be as easy for counterfeit products to be sold really for that reason. But as you said, it's a fascinating topic. So those are physical products. So let's talk about services, Oliver, because a lot of
yeah.
my clients are service-based business owners. I mean, I'm a service-based business owner.
Hmm.
So as you know, we've had a conversation about this. I've
Hmm.
got a name for my business, I've got a name for my process, and a name for the steps, and
Yeah.
I've got a name for my podcast. And I don't really like the idea of people stealing my podcast name and using it for their business or the name of my program. So, how easy is it to actually trademark your your name?
So I think that I mean, every service provider has a name for the business,
Yeah,
and that name could be a made up name. It could be something that describes the service. It could be something elusive, maybe not directly descriptive. It can even be their own name. You know,
yeah,
a lot of people use their own name, but it's very the process is quite simple as long as you have the right strategy in place, which is focused on getting the trademark registration at the end.
yeah,
So you would just have to make sure that you file it as a trademark
yeah,
in the jurisdictions that you you have your clients or you want to do business. It's a bit um, fuzzy now because a lot of business is done online, isn't it?
yeah.
And people have that do run a service based business. They have clients all over the world, and sometimes
Mhm.
it just
Yeah.
becomes um, financially impossible to be able to protect your trademark in every country around the world. But you
Mhm.
would just pick the ones that are the most important to you. but it's quite easy. You just make sure that you get some advice first. Make sure when you file a trademark, you have to file it for different categories of goods and services, and
Yeah.
they're grouped into things called classes. So
Yeah.
you would pick the right classes um, for your um, for your business. So, for example, for yourself, you would make sure that you cover exactly what you do, which is your business consultancy. But you would also cover education and training services if you
Hmm.
ran master classes. You would cover podcasting services, maybe some books as well. You might want to write a book one day, or um, and physical books and ebooks as well.
Yeah.
You might even want to sell some merchandise at some point to get some revenue.
Yeah.
And then you might also, because you're dealing with brands, you might also want to protect yourself for web design services or branding, sort of brand development services, etc., graphic design services. So you just make sure that you're covered for what you do,
Yes.
and things that are so closely related to what you do that you wouldn't want someone else to use your trademark or something similar for that. And then once you've got that scope of protection, then you would make your trademark application. But you would need to do a search first to make sure that you don't make sure that you don't what's it called? That you tread on anyone's toes. Make sure that you don't have um, that you're not filing a trademark that's identical or similar to someone else's
Yeah.
in relation to the same or similar goods and services.
Yes, so we've got lots and lots of comments in the chat. I see that there's a bit of a debate going on about cost of trademarks, and
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
Clem's asking how much does it cost to get a trademark in the UK. So
yeah,
yes, and then Richard's saying EU, UK, USA, and China. So I think he's asking, do you have to have different trademarks for different
yeah.
countries? And so all of those questions are coming through. So
That's fine.
what would you say, Oliver,
I
to
can I
those?
can address those, and
Okay.
you're going to be shocked at how much it costs because it's cheap as chips. So in the UK, if you wanted to file one trademark application, let's say you just wanted to file it in one class, okay,
Yeah.
and do it yourself, the government fee is £170, and that's it. And if you, as long as your trademark goes through, that trademark lasts for 10 years. So
Hmm.
really, you've spent £17 a year to protect your trademark.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to trademark it globally, there's something called the International Trademark Registration System.
Hmm.
And if you have a UK trademark, and you wanted to protect the trademark, you wanted to extend protection to the US, China, Australia, all of those countries that you've just mentioned, it
Hmm.
only costs £40 to file the international trademark application, and
Wow.
you're given, I think, maybe 3 to 6 months to pay the actual government fees in those jurisdictions that you want to choose. But I think the take home thing would be that when you file your first trademark application, okay, you have
Hmm.
to just remember that you're going to be protected. Let's say it was a UK trademark. When you
Yeah.
file your first trademark application, you're protected all around the world for 6 months, and that's
Yeah.
called the priority period. So,
Okay.
as long as you file all of your foreign trademarks within 6 months, they will all be backdated to your UK filing date. So, no one can steal your brand once you've filed it, as long as you um, extend your protection within the 6 month period.
Well, I'll tell you what, you've got some fans here. Richard says, I think I love Oliver. So that's, yeah,
Yeah,
you're making
thank
a
you,
big
Richard. You're
impression
making me
on me.
blush. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's really amazing. And what I wanted to ask you as well, Oliver, when you see like the little letters, like you see the little R in a
yeah,
circle and you
yeah,
see the little TM, and what's the difference between those letters? Because I'm always
yeah.
rather impressed when I see that after people's names and
So
so on.
when you I can explain it to you. So there's three main letters or annotations that there are. So one of them is the C in the circle, okay? The other one is the TM, okay?
Yeah.
And the other one is the R in a circle, okay?
Yeah.
So what you want is to have that R in a circle, all right? That means that your trademark is registered. And so when people see that, they're not going to mess with you, or they're going to be
Okay.
less likely to mess with you
Mm.
because they can see that you've invested in your brand, you've protected it, and you would probably enforce it if you saw someone doing something that they shouldn't be doing with it. And also, it builds trust from a consumer's perspective because they know that you take pride in your goods and services, so much so that you've invested in the protection. So the registration is what you want. When you put the with the TM, we never advise clients to put a TM because all you're doing really is telling people that you don't have a trademark registration, and
Okay.
you're just using that word as a trademark, but it's not
Okay.
protected.
Oh,
Okay,
right. Oh, so you're
so
saying it's an unprotected trademark. Woohoo! You can come and
mostly,
steal it.
so yeah, well then that's it, and then someone would just see it and think, okay, well if they haven't protected it, then I'll protect it myself. And then the little C stands for copyright, so that's what you usually see at the bottom of websites or on a album cover of a CD. I don't know if there are CDs anymore, but that's more to do with music, musical, literary, dramatic, um, and artistic works, etc.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So if you're writing a play or if you've got a piece of music, you're going to go down the copyright route as
Yeah,
opposed to the trademark with the
yeah,
R,
yeah,
protected trademark with the
yeah,
R.
yeah.
Okay, I've got it. I'm learning so much. This is just the
There is
amazing thing.
one thing actually
Yeah,
I should say. It's going to get a bit anarchy, but I have to say it because it's
go for it.
um, it, the advice wouldn't be complete. So yeah, I the only time that I would advise someone to put a TM next to their brand
Hmm.
is if their trademark was really descriptive and they tried to apply for a trademark, but they couldn't get it through because the examiners said it describes your product or your service.
Hmm.
So there's something under trademark law called the principle of acquired distinctiveness. So if you can show that you've used your trademark for a certain amount of time and you've generated goodwill, reputation, a significant amount of people that see that word automatically think of your brand rather than the generic or descriptive um, thing, then you can um, give all that evidence to the intellectual property office, and persuade them to give you the trademark. And
Yeah.
so you would have to show that you've used it as a trademark. So during that period of trying to get evidence of acquired distinctiveness, I would probably say put the TM there, just so people can see that it is being used as a trademark. So it
Okay.
was incorrect of me to say that I never advise clients to put a TM next to the trademark, but it's only in that situation.
Okay, okay. So, what I wanted to ask you about next, and I don't know whether you know about this, Oliver, or whether this is part of your work, but this whole thing about NFTs
Yeah,
is quite interesting, isn't it?
yeah,
Because NFTs, I've actually got a musician friend
yeah,
who's, well, in fact, I know a few people who are into NFTs. So, is
yeah.
that something that you can explain, or is it something you know about? Is it something you can explain?
I don't want to try and explain it because I'm still learning about it myself.
Yep,
Literally, we're still trying to get our head around it
yep,
in the office from an IP perspective because
yep,
it has a massive impact on intellectual property, and we're trying to get at the moment some content together actually.
yes.
But yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable advising on NFTs, but yeah, it's such a um, interesting subject that has consequences for everything, really. I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I'm always, like last night I went out for my auntie's birthday, and I should have been talking about anything other than NFTs and the metaverse, basically. So yeah, it's one of those things. But we're gonna publish something
Yeah.
on it soon, and yeah, a lot of people are asking about it, and I'm still learning about it myself.
Yes, and it's kind of it's crypto based, isn't it? So it's,
It is, I believe it is. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I can't pretend that I'm an expert on it, but what I do know is that a lot of my viewers and listeners are also interested to find out
Mhm.
more. So I think I'll get a guest on, Oliver, and then that will help you in your quest as well as me.
Yeah, I'll send you my I'll send you my article and my content once we've
Yeah,
completed
that'd
it
be
as well.
really, really good. Okay, so I just wondered whether, how what kind of cases do you deal with when things go wrong? Can you give me an example of where perhaps somebody has failed to register, their trademark or their IP and what the consequences have been for them, just to make it
Yeah.
real?
So I guess it depends why your trademark wasn't registered. So if you filed your trademark, it might be that the examiner has not allowed your trademark to go through because it's descriptive and he can't give you that monopoly over the name. So
Yeah.
the consequence for you there would be that you won't be able to enforce your legal rights against anyone. So even if you had a brilliant product, someone else could just come and use your name, and you won't have a trademark registration to use to get them to stop. You would have to rely on some unregistered rights or passing off or something like that. Very
Mhm.
difficult to prove goodwill in a descriptive name. And then on the other side, um, you could maybe not get your trademark because someone has challenged you and opposed your trademark
Mhm.
application. And one of, I mean, you'd be if you just didn't get your trademark registered, then that could, that wouldn't be the worst thing. But sometimes when people oppose your trademark, they'll actually sue you at the same time for trademark infringement. So
Right.
you'll get a letter
Yeah,
saying, withdraw your trademark and stop using it.
yeah.
Otherwise, I want my £500,000 damages in the bank,
Mm.
please. Um,
£500,000. Yeah, remember that.
or
Yeah.
up to,
Yeah.
£500,000. I want my damages, or I want an account of your profits. So those are the kind of things that can happen, and that's what we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So we deal with the enforcement of that, but as well as defense. So we help a lot of businesses that are being sued, as well as the ones suing.
Yes, yes, and of course, suing is even more prolific in the US, isn't it? Because it's over here, and I don't know, you may have a view on this, but from what I understand, that the Americans are much quicker to pull the trigger on legal action, particularly suing. Do you think that's true, or is that just my perception?
I think from my this is my own experience. I think in terms of culture, American IP lawyers are a lot more aggressive.
Yeah.
So they'll make the threat, and if the other side doesn't play ball, they'll probably follow through with that threat. And
Mm.
proceedings can escalate very quickly, um, but the legal cost is extremely high. So if
Yes.
you're in the States, litigation is a rich man's sport. So as
Yes.
long as you've got the money, then you can do it. But I think, and also there's the damages that you can get back if you lose. Well, the damages that you have to pay out if you lose are much, much higher
Yeah.
than, you know, this £500,000 thing would be
In the
a drop
UK.
in the ocean. um,
Yeah.
probably for the same in the same case that was litigated on the other side of the pond in the US.
Yes, so that's an important thing, I think, for everybody to understand and to take away, that if you infringe an American company's copyright or trademarks, that you stand to lose a lot, because they can come after you, even if you're here in the UK or elsewhere in the world. Is that right?
I think so. Trademark rights are national rights, basically.
Okay.
So it is possible for a US company to have a UK trademark,
Yeah.
and then if the infringement is in the UK, then they would have to sue the UK company under UK law. But
Mm.
then the US company could have a US trademark, and
Yep.
if somebody infringed it in the US, then um, they would sue them under US law. So what these
Yep.
big companies usually have is trademarks around the world, and sometimes people infringe in different countries, and you
Yep.
can sue people in different countries as well at the same
Yeah.
time.
And of course, with globalization, with the internet and digital media and so on, I mean, we all have more international businesses, or a lot of us do,
Yeah,
more international than we did in the past, or that people typically did in the past. So
yeah,
this is for all these reasons. You have really opened my eyes tonight, Oliver. And obviously, we had a great conversation the other day. And I
yeah,
thought, we've just got to air this topic. We've got to make people understand how important it is to protect their brands and their intellectual property assets. So it's really been a great conversation. I just wanted to thank you for coming on the show. It's been
thanks for having
great.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I've had an amazing chat as well. It's really nice.
Yeah. It's been so
Thanks so much.
good. Yeah. So Oliver, you've got a giveaway, haven't you, for our listeners and our viewers?
Oh, okay, yeah. So I mean, if anyone does need help with their trademark, or just some advice on, you know, what I've just said, so what classes you need, and whether your trademark's registrable, or whether there are any earlier trademarks that conflict. If you just get in touch, send an email to me, or send an email to us. We'll ask you some questions about the business, and we'll be able to give you some really comprehensive advice for we don't charge for it, and it might be comprehensive enough that you can just go off and do it yourself if you wanted to. We wouldn't There'll be no hard feelings on our end. We would just want to give you a sort of a guide of what to do, and if you wanted us to do it, we can do it for you. It's up to you. But yeah, if you need some advice, just let us know, and we would give you UK advice, or if you wanted some searching done around the world, we can do that as well. We've got the team to do it, and we've got the software to do it as well, and we turn it over relatively quickly as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much. So how can people get hold of you, Oliver? What's the easiest way?
You can send me an email, um, which is Oliver at trademarkwizards.co.uk. That just goes into my phone, or and then once I get that email, then I'll either deal with it myself, or depending on what time it is, or I'll give it to someone in my team, and they'll get back to you straight away, and we'll get something comprehensive over to you. And if you need more clarification on stuff, you can always pick up the phone and call me. I'm
Yeah, he's
always
very
I'm, al- I'm always available on the phone as well. So if you
yeah.
email me, I can give you my number. And sometimes you just need to talk to someone. Depends on how people like to get their information, or we can do a Zoom. Always happy to put a face to a voice and make a friend.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, right. Well, once again with email, Daniel's saying he wants your email again. He's interested.
It's Oliver at trademarkwizards.co.uk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you very much again, Oliver. It's been an
You're
absolute
welcome.
pleasure to have you with us tonight. And I know that our guests have really enjoyed this interview. So
Perfect.
great to see you. And I will, well, we're going to be in touch again very soon, aren't we?
Yes, we will. Definitely, for
Okay.
sure. All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
I'm not sure what to do now.
Oh,